They started on horseback nearly 222 years ago. Now they hunt fugitives all over the globe. Good evening, I'm John Walsh, and welcome to another 2-hour America's Most Wanted special right here on Fox. Tonight we're riding with the U.S. Marshals. You're going to help us solve some of their toughest cases. And over the course of the next 2 hours, you're going to learn some things about the Marshals you probably never knew. So let's begin by going after a fugitive who's been the focus of a major Marshals manhunt. This is the Pensacola, Florida most people know. Sandy dunes, picturesque beaches, a historic downtown. But beyond the rolling tides, there's another side of Pensacola. A side that most people don't see, a tougher side. And it was at an apartment complex here that Toni Washington was trying to carve out a life for her family.
It's just a complex. A complex built to help people that can't survive anywhere else. It's for people who are trying to build something and build their life up. But you're supposed to use it as a stepping stone. Love me, man.
Toni's daughter, Marceline, a single mom, lived at the apartments, along with Toni's beautiful grandson, Tyquarius. Toni was always nearby, ready to offer support and love for the little boy.
I went by there to see him every day. I don't know what it was. I would go over there every morning, or I would go over there every day when I get off work.
Unfortunately, some people use the complex for something much more sinister.
You have a lot of the outsiders who don't reside there that come in there, deal drugs and cause all kind of problems. And most of the time, it's the residents there that suffer.
On the morning of July 15th at this Shell station next door to the apartment complex, a local drug dealer was robbed at gunpoint. The take, a pound of marijuana. The guy who was robbed? A dirty thug named Dwayne Money Pinestraw. A little later, Toni was headed to the apartment complex and found two young men visiting her daughter. Toni didn't know it, but one of the men who reportedly robbed Pinestraw had come to visit Toni's daughter. And what's worse, Dwayne Pinestraw was out looking for revenge. Around 1:45 p.m., he pulled up to the apartment complex, got out of his car, and opened fire.
So I see Marcy run into the kitchen. And before I can get out the bedroom door, she was coming back from the kitchen with Ty in her arms. And she looked at me and she said, "Mama, my baby."
In the melee, little Tyquarius Moultrie was hit by 2 bullets in the chest. He died in his grandmother's arms. In the months that followed, Marceline gave birth to another baby boy. She believes he carries the spirit of Tyquarius within him. But it's up to us to carry the hunt for justice forward. Cops think Dwayne Pinestraw is running drugs between Alabama, Louisiana, and Pensacola, Florida. Pinestraw might think he's hard, but he's nothing more than a punk, a little one at that. He stands 5'6" and only weighs 130 pounds. He should be easy to spot. Keep an eye out for his gold front teeth. If you know anything about Pinestraw, call 1-800-CRIME-TV. And remember, you can always remain anonymous. Now, before we move on, let's take a minute to remember what they say this guy did. You know, I believe there's a very special place in hell for someone who would even pull out a gun and point it into a room with a 2-year-old child there, let alone pull the trigger with no regard for that baby's life. Now, I know somebody out there is protecting this accused child killer, and I'm going to say it to you straight. If you don't call in and tell us where he is right now, then in my book, you're nothing but a coward. And if you're afraid, if you're intimidated, remember, I guarantee it. Make that call. I'll protect you. You can remain anonymous. Okay, let's move on, because thank God we got some incredibly good news to report. One of the U.S. Marshals' 15 most wanted is off the streets thanks to you, and thanks to an incredible woman who had the courage to stand up to this creep, not once, but twice. The memories of our childhood stand frozen in time. But for April Chavez, those memories remain very close and very real.
Just the whole thing is uncomfortable.
It's still hard on her, you know, if she thinks about way back then.
April's mom knows exactly what her daughter is still haunted by. It's the memory of a frightening encounter 20 years ago. She was only 12. Portage, Michigan, 1991. The day a stranger set his sights on April in a local arcade. The man's name, Richard Haranga.
I got too many tokens for just myself.
You don't have to do that.
Looks like you're getting to be pretty good.
Soon into it, he wanted to get on and ride with me. I wasn't really sure what exactly was going on.
You gotta move your body, son.
And then he was touching and saying things that were inappropriate.
You know, you're the prettiest girl here. Oh, your hair smells so good.
And put his hand on my shirt and down the back of my pants.
I'm sorry, I was just trying to show you how it was done.
I have to get my sister.
You know, I got more tokens in my car. Why don't you come out with me and I'll let you have them, okay?
I was so scared that he was gonna grab me and pull me out the door. What happened was bad enough, but if I would have actually been naive enough to let him drag me out the doors, I can't imagine what would have possibly happened. And all the other girls were like, don't tell, we'll just leave, don't tell. No one wanted me to tell what had happened.
But April did tell the arcade owner what happened, and he called the cops.
I think it's part of who I am as a person. I just talk, tell. I don't know, a lot really doesn't scare me. I mean, a lot of things hurt me, but they don't scare me.
Thanks to April's courage, Haranga was arrested. But when it came time for the trial, the other young witnesses at the arcade refused to testify. It was all on the shoulders of young April, with the encouragement of her family, including her mom, Joanne.
We told her she should put him away. Even if the other girls don't go, you know, someone needs to go so we can get him put away. I'm proud she stood up. Yeah, I'm real proud of her.
Her courageous testimony was a turning point in the trial. Haranga decided to plead guilty and was sentenced to 15 years in prison.
And we got him put away, and it was good, and we thought everything was over with.
But it was far from over. In 2009, a phone call brought the past rushing back. It was from a prosecutor in Colorado. He told April that Haranga had appeared again in the life of another young girl.
Decided I would call you.
When I received the telephone call from the prosecutors, I was pretty devastated. I was like, oh my God, not again.
After serving his time for what he did to April back in Michigan, Haranga headed west.
We'll all get through this together.
He moved in with a woman he met in Colorado and set his sights on her 13-year-old daughter,
Feeling any better?
a girl we'll call Megan.
Just tired.
Let me check your lymph nodes, okay? Come on, it's gonna be easier to get to them if you sit in my lap. Come on, here we go. Come on.
He would make me sit on his lap. and he would stick his hands up my shirt or down my pants.
It was a frightening escalation of his actions years ago with April.
Hey, how was your day?
This time, his new victim was trapped in silence, under the same roof as her predator.
He threatened to get rid of the house and hurt my mom if I ever told anyone about it.
I will not be ignored. Are you listening to me? Walk away from me!
Then one day, he did try to hurt Megan's mom, and she called police.
He got put in jail for domestic violence against my mom, and that's when I decided that it was safe enough to write her a letter and tell her some of the events that had happened.
I am so sorry. I had no idea. No.
Arrested again on molestation charges, Haranga knew his history could put him away for life. This is the police video from the Douglas County, Colorado Sheriff's Department.
They said something about some child abuse charges or something.
Sexual assault on
Sexual assault.
As the DA's office began building their case, they knew they needed a character witness, someone to bolster the young girl's accusations. That's when they called April and begged her to testify. April was now married with 3 children. She thought she put this monster behind her long ago.
And when I heard the story, what he had done, I was just in tears. And I just wanted to help.
She knew there was only one thing to do. A courageous April Chavez flew to Colorado to the courtroom to testify on Megan's behalf.
And then he put his hands down my shirt and down my pants.
April Chavez's testimony was extremely important. When you're able to show that he has a prior victim, and not only a prior victim,
you're the prettiest girl here,
but a prior victim who was similar to our victim and was molested in a similar way, that is just exceptionally powerful evidence.
I was 12 years old, and he made me feel like I was the guilty one.
Secretly, April was nervous because now Haranga and his family knew where she lived and what she looked like as a grown woman. But she told Megan's mom she would not let Megan stand alone, like April had so many years ago. It looked like the ordeal was coming to an end. But Haranga had been free on bond during trial. And just hours before the jury could convict Haranga, he ran. And a national manhunt was on. Haranga was named to the U.S. Marshals' top 15 fugitive. Haranga was living in the city of Detroit in a little bungalow house. He was going by a false name, Tim Thurman. He fooled the locals into thinking he was a religious man.
These people believed him. They trusted him. They thought he was a good guy. He came off that way as he was a real faithful, church-going person. You know, he gave that impression, a hard-working person.
But 2 of the locals were suspicious. They had a feeling this guy had something in his past. They went to the AMW website to check out whether they were right.
They didn't know his real name. They knew the name he gave.
Fugitive is right now. And they showed detectives Haranga's mugshot on the AMW website. The cops called the U.S. Marshals. And the fugitive task force sped to Haranga's house.
I would say from the time the information was given, between 30 and 45 minutes, there was surveillance in the house, and people were getting recalled into work and ready to put this in motion. So we knocked on the side door. We showed the homeowner a picture, and the homeowner indicated, like, yeah, he's downstairs. We get consent to come in the house. We file down the stairs, and we have one officer hold down this way as we continue to clear through. We continue down to the room we suspect Haranga to be in. We get up to what we believe is the room that he's going to be in. The door was cracked open just like that. There was a TV on. Officers of Burkott pushed the door open and said, "Let me see your hands." He was laying right there on the bed, watching TV, just sitting there. And it looked like a deer in the headlight look when we came in and we arrested him.
Haranga was flown back to Colorado to face the music.
What's the last year on the run been like?
Well, it hasn't been fun. There's no way I could send a message that this courtroom was totally unfair.
Well, he can tell that to the judge in Colorado when he gets sentenced. And he's looking at up to 500 years in prison.
Did you like the apple pie that we had from here last time? That we made with that vanilla ice cream? That was good, wasn't it?
For April Chavez, the capture means she can start to see her childhood pain in a new light.
Which one do you want to get? That one up there?
That there's been some good to come out of a terrible memory that fate wouldn't allow her to ignore.
The biggest picture of the whole thing, that there is good in it, that he is caught. With him gone, my kids are safe, and everyone else's kids are safe. I protected everybody's children and my children from this man.
For the victims in Colorado, April has become their fellow warrior angel.
That it does bring a sense of closure that he's been captured. It's still something that I'll probably have to live with for the rest of my life, but I believe now that he's captured, it's something we can start putting in the past.
I'm glad it's over. I'm glad he's captured, and thank God for American Most Wanted. Right. I was glad to hear that he was finally caught. It was a long time coming.
You know, I really admire April. And if everybody had April's strength and stood up and protected our children against just one predator, the world would be a lot safer place for our kids. Now, we're here at the U.S. Marshals Regional Task Force headquarters just outside of Atlanta. We got a lot of work to do. You just took a fugitive off the U.S. Marshals top 15 list. It wouldn't be great if we could do it again. The Marshals have added 2 new names to their 15 most wanted list, and we're announcing those names tonight. Here's the first one. The crime is about as terrifying as any parent could imagine. It happened in the middle of the night. Marshals say the man responsible is this guy, Corey Gaston. Marshals in Detroit say in June of 2007, he kidnapped a 10-year-old girl from her bedroom, dragged her into the nearby woods, and brutally raped her. The cops caught Gaston in Georgia 1 week later, but a judge released him on bond, and Gaston hasn't been seen since. Now, he's made it to the Marshals' 15 most wanted list. Corey Gaston's a truck driver. He really loves hockey. He played in college and may still be playing somewhere. If you know where Corey Gaston is, you've got to make that call. 1-800-CRIME-TV.
I was working at a gentleman's club at the time, and we meet very little gentlemen.
Hi.
I am Marie. I am a survivor, and this is my story.
It's a gin and tonic. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to sit down?
One day, Mr. Crouch walks in, and we had a good conversation.
I'm Kenneth.
Kenneth, I'm Marie. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you, too.
I've never seen you here.
Yeah, it's my first time.
Yeah,
Glad I came.
You like it?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we have beautiful girls.
Well, I would say you're the most beautiful girl here.
Oh, say that to all the girls.
And he asked me out to dinner.
Listen, can I take you to dinner?
Okay.
Which most guys there, they just want to ask you out for something else. So I thought, oh, okay, a dinner. Sounds good. When he took me out to dinner, he was very smooth. He always had nice things to say.
Incredible.
Yeah, it looks great, doesn't it?
It does. You know, I was a little hesitant about going out with you because...
He spoke with a good tone. He starts talking real smooth words that every woman wants to hear.
I'm not like those other guys.
Well, I didn't think so. I mean, you didn't seem like that. That's why I decided to come out tonight. And I'm so glad I did.
You are so beautiful.
Thank you so much.
We had good conversations, but I really didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Now, if Marie had known Crouch's history, she would have realized she had a lot of cause for concern. But to understand that, I've got to take you back 17 years into the past. 1991, Lafayette, Louisiana. A local man discovers his 14-year-old daughter is snuck out of the house. He tracks her down to an apartment and finds her with an older man, Kenneth Crouch.
Dad.
So he went to the apartment where he thought she may be.
Didn't do anything. He's just a friend.
And that's when he discovered her in the bedroom alone with Kenneth Crouch. And he became very upset. I'm Howard James Bourdin, a Louisiana probation and parole officer.
He'll be mad.
And he tells Kenneth that if he does not marry his daughter, that's when he's going to call the police and file charges on him. The 14-year-old daughter is not old enough to get married in Louisiana. So the dad arranges a shotgun wedding in Texas, and they get married. They lived together for about 6 to 8 months. She just realizes that she's tired of the bizarre behavior. They're not getting along. So she decided to go ahead and try to get away from him. And Kenny's reaction was not good. He decides enough is enough. And Kenny goes to that residence. He's armed with a shotgun. And he beats her with the shotgun. He strikes her so hard, he actually breaks her pelvis. Then he unties her shoelaces and he ties her to the bed.
Shut up!
After he ties her down with the shoelaces, he forcibly rapes her. And then Kenny tells her that if you're not going to have sex with me, I will blow your head off and I'll have sex with your dead body. After Kenny's wife is raped, she's able to call 911. She's reported that she's being held hostage in this residence. The SWAT team shows up.
Please let me go.
They surround the residence. They go to the front door of the residence. They're trying to make contact with Kenny.
SWAT team, come out with your hands up! I know you're out there! I'm trying to come in, I'm gonna kill myself and my wife!
They start communicating with Kenny through the front door. Kenny tells the SWAT team that if they make entry into the residence, not only will he kill his wife, he will blow his head off.
You know, we're done for.
The SWAT team gets the wife and they escort her to safety. After a short while, they hear a gunshot go off inside the residence. The SWAT team thinks that Kenny's killed himself. So they make forcible entry into the residence. And that's when they discover Kenny has not shot himself. He's still armed with a gun. Kenny was arrested and booked, was charged with aggravated burglary. He was charged with aggravated rape, aggravated simple criminal damage to property, and plus a slew of other charges.
Now, Crouch was convicted and sentenced to 40 years behind bars, 20 mandatory. But somehow he managed to get himself paroled early. For the life of me, I don't know why they let these guys walk early. But sure enough, by 2007, Crouch was out of prison, a free man. It wasn't long before he was back to his old ways with a new woman he had just set his sights on. It was that single working mother you saw him meet in the club, Marie Jennis.
We were together for 2 years. We became engaged a year after we were together. He started being nicer and nicer. He ended up moving into my house with me.
Oh, my God. I am so wiped out.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. You're such a sweetheart. Give me. Oh, thank you for waiting up for me.
How was it tonight?
It was busy, you know. A lot of people.
Good crowd?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of lonely people out there.
You make some good money?
Yeah, I did pretty well.
He was the kind of man that would wake up at 2 in the morning when he knew I was on my way home. He would have my bath waiting for me. He had a glass of wine if that's what I needed or wanted. It's what every woman wants in their life, you know, someone to help them.
Oh, I feel so good.
I have to say 3 to 4 months after he moved in, he started to act a little strange. He would write me notes, you know, leave them on the bathroom cabinet. And it was strange notes, like he wanted me to spank him. And I thought, wow, he wasn't like this before. So it just started getting weirder and stranger. Started getting on the computer a lot, and then things start popping up, Kenny's girl. So I started getting worried about it, thinking I'm gonna question him. He did admit that he had been talking to people. He was doing his thing and talking to women, and
So that's what he's been doing.
Actually making arrangements to meet them and started buying weird things, and he had a whole bag of sexual toys, and then he started leaving the house with his bag, and so I told him he had to leave. I told him it was over. I wasn't that kind of person, and I didn't want to be with that kind of person. He wasn't that person when I met him, and he just changed.
That's it. I've had it with you. I'm tired of all your stuff. I'm tired of your bag of toys. I want you out of my house. I've had him out. Well, I want you out of here. I want you to pack your stuff.
It hurts because I cared about him a lot. I thought he cared about my mother, and that made me happy. I'm Maria's daughter, Elena, and I am a survivor.
We're gonna celebrate when we get back. I want you out.
You heard her? I don't have to go anywhere. You can't tell me what to do.
I will. You don't speak to my mother the way you speak to her.
I'll talk to her however I want to.
I told you this was your last night. Out.
I don't think so.
Get out of here when we get back.
It was actually November the 8th. My daughter and I decided we were going to go get a drink.
Me and my mom had wanted to go out to congratulate, you know, her getting out of that kind of unwanted relationship.
He was supposed to have everything out. We came back, and that's when it all started.
You still doing here?
I live here.
You know what? I'm calling 911.
911?
And he whips out a knife, and he said, somebody's going to die.
Oh, my God. He's got a knife. Oh, my God.
My daughter grabs a knife. And at this point in time, I was scared to death. Started to run for the back door. He chased me out the back door, which that's what I was hoping for, to get him out the house, away from my kid. Got halfway down the steps when he grabbed a hold of me, because I thought he still had the knife. I waited for that knife to just slice my throat. My daughter runs out after me, kicking him, hitting him, yelling at him. And all I could do is yell, get the gun, get my gun. She turns around to run up the steps.
He threw me off. I hit the steps. I couldn't breathe. My throat had hit the steps.
And she's wobbling, looking for the door, and she can't breathe. And she's gasping for air, and I'm thinking my daughter's about to fall down and die. I thought he broke her throat, literally.
I remember begging, please stop. You know, me yelling anything possible to get him to stop. I told him I wouldn't tell anyone. Please stop. And that's all I remember.
I'm bruised, scratched and scraped, bleeding.
One of the neighbors responded with an axe. Another neighbor responded with a gun. Kenny sees this isn't going very well for him. He beats feet. Kenny gets in his vehicle and drives to his workplace. He gets out of town. Corey Britt, Deputy U.S. Marshal. Kenny steals the truck, plows through the gate, and ends up in the San Antonio area.
I think he's destroyed a lot of my life and my children's lives. And him being out there, it's scary, because we never know when we turn in our back if he's going to be there.
I wake up every day and I'm scared. Scared that he may come back. Scared that he may hurt me, my daughter, my mother.
Kenny's armed. Kenny's dangerous. Kenny's desperate. He's on the run. Kenny's violent. He's an unregistered sex offender. Kenny has vowed not to go back to jail. He will not be taken alive.
I say please turn him in, because he's playing smooth with you just like he did me.
I would say you're the most beautiful girl.
And he's going to turn on you too.
Crouch really is a menace to society, pure and simple, and we need your tips to lock him down. Take a good look. This is the real Kenneth Crouch. He's pretty tall, about 6 foot, and not too heavy set. But what's going to give him away is that he's covered with tattoos. This Harley-Davidson design covers his entire back. You can see the rest of his tats on our website, amw.com. Here's another important clue. Crouch was last seen in Laredo, Texas, driving a Mitsubishi Montero similar to this one. A surveillance camera caught this picture of him driving the Montero. It also caught this plate, SFY363, but he's probably changed the plate by now. His personal life could give him away too. You saw in our segment that he likes sex toys. Well, he actually carries a black bag of them around with him. And although he appears to be heterosexual, some of the women who've been involved with him tell us he actually prefers men. But he can't be open about it because he thinks it would disappoint his father. Okay, what else? He smokes Pall Malls. He drinks just about anything. And remember, he might seem harmless, but if anything, he's just the opposite. Don't approach him. Give us a call at AMW headquarters right now at 1-800-CRIME-TV. Now, the U.S. Marshal you saw in that piece, Corey Britt, was also the head of the Marshals Task Force on a case we brought you on our last Fox special. And tonight, we've got a really interesting update on that case. It was the case of Joe Constance, a guy from the backwoods of Louisiana. His wife had left him, and he was out for revenge.
No, Joe. Joe, what are you doing?
Can't take it anymore.
Don't
I can't take it.
No!
Her daughter, Tori, was locked in the bathroom with her boyfriend calling 911 and heard the fatal gunshot. Right after his segment aired, our hotline lit up. And within minutes, the U.S. Marshals went out on one of your tips.
We get a call from Mike Trosclair, who's at the America's Most Wanted hotline. And Mike tells us that a caller called in saying that Constance is located within a residence in Sulphur.
I was expecting to be believed to be an abandoned house, according to the last tip we got. Someone might possibly in there. They saw a flashlight. It might be a homeless guy walking around with a flashlight. It might be Joe.
We saw the flashlight. We knew we had something. We called for additional support. We surrounded the house, and we went in. It wasn't Joe. It wasn't Constance.
They spelled it L-E-G-E-R-D.
But even though it wasn't Joe Constance, the night wasn't a total loss. The guy in the house was another wanted man.
We ended up arresting Patrick Leger, who was wanted on outstanding felony charges in Calcasieu Parish.
The daughter of the victim in the Constance case is still waiting for justice, but says she's happy the airing of her mom's story has already made the world a little safer.
Although they didn't catch Joe, I was glad that the U.S. Marshals got the other guy, and they were there so fast, and it was pretty cool that they were ready to catch him.
But Constance is still out there. He's a dangerous, dangerous man. So let's keep up the pressure and see if we can bring him in tonight. Take a good look. If you know where Joe Constance is, call our hotline at 1-800-CRIME-TV. Okay, now stay with us because a little later on I'll be sitting down with the director of the U.S. Marshals, Stacia Hilton. She's going to announce the next fugitive on the 15 most wanted list right here on this broadcast. It's a guy I've had on my personal list for a very long time. And we'll have a report on another of your latest captures. So stick around, we're just getting warmed up. I don't think people have any idea how difficult it is to become a U.S. Marshal and how extensive the training is. I'm here at one of their training facilities, and this is Supervisory Inspector Jim Joyner. And Jim's going to take me through some of the scenarios.
That's correct. What we're standing in is a 300-degree virtual training system made by Virtua. We use this to put you in a position where, after we teach you some basic shooting fundamentals, we can put you in a scenario where you have to make a decision whether or not it's a shoot or no shoot situation.
And that's that split second where a marshal has to decide whether to shoot or not to shoot. Kill an innocent bystander or do the right thing, kill a bad guy and save his or her own life. It's a difficult time, isn't it?
It really is. It's that fast.
Okay, take me through it.
All right, what we're going to start out with is the absolute basics of shooting. With your jacket on, what you're going to need to do is facing your target. You're going to need to sweep back with your thumb, exposing your weapon. Place your hand on the grip like this so that you're actually seated high up on the back strap of it. And then the drawing part commences. From here, it's a come out, everything meets up in the front, and then you project it out towards your target. You're going to sight through the rear sights, focusing on your front sight. Put it on the center of visible mass, the biggest part of the target that you can see, and squeeze the trigger towards the rear.
Not as easy as it looks, is it?
It really isn't. And transitioning from one target to the other, it's actually easier. Some people will act like a tank and move their arms with it and the weapon with it, but if you move your eyes first to quiet a target and bring the weapon over to it, it keeps your weapon from bouncing past it and you can actually get on target. Now that you've got the fundamentals of shooting in hand, we have here what's called a Hogan's Alley. This is when you employ those use of deadly force thought processes. You will be presented with a situation. You, at that point, have to go through the process of deciding whether or not that person presents a deadly force to you, and then what you're going to do about it. If you're comfortable with your weapon out, then go ahead and draw it out. You know you're going to be confronted with something.
Gotcha.
You just have to decide what it is before you employ the weapon.
Gotcha.
Good call.
Think you would have got me, right?
It was pretty close. That was no contest. You got him.
Would have got me, right?
Well, you employed some of what we actually teach our students.
Go Dope.
Which is when you're confronted with something, not only do you have to realize what it is, but if you start receiving bullets, get yourself offline.
I went down.
And then take your shots, and that was absolutely perfect.
Okay. Ooh. Shot the good guy, didn't I?
That time you did.
Oh, boy.
Oh.
2 in a row.
Nice.
So, actually, I got to be honest, I shot 2 innocent citizens. One of them was the stereotype looked like a bad guy who had shot at me twice before. So in that split-second decision, I shot a lot of bad guys, but I actually killed 2 innocent people.
That's what the training is for. We'd rather it happen here.
Let's try another one.
Okay, we'll go straight into another situation. Perfect.
I was hoping I figured she might have a gun, but I saw him getting out.
You picked up on what we went over before. You have to make sure that you're aware of everything that's going on around you.
Jim, I got to tell you, even though it's a simulation, you start sweating, your heart rate's up, your adrenaline's going, and in a split second, you can make a really bad decision.
Yes, sir.
Well, you got something else for me.
That's correct. We're going to take you back to the sim house. We're going to put some gear on you. We're going to replace the screens with some actual people.
Oh, boy. Let's give it a shot.
All right, sir.
This is the shoot house. Of the many, many things the marshals do, probably the most dangerous is serving warrants and finding fugitives. This is where they learn how to do that. And this is Tony Schilling. He's a supervisory inspector for the U.S. Marshals. And you're going to show me what you do in here.
That's right. You just got done with the virtual machine, did some simulation, interacted with people on the screen. Now we're actually going to use live role players, put you on one of our teams, run you through a training scenario, and you're going to be a part of it, taking down a fugitive.
So there's some live bad guys in here.
Yes, sir.
You're going to show me how to do it.
Absolutely.
Let's get busy.
All right.
Police, U.S. Marshals. Door open. Police! 3-4, 3-4, 3-4. Left clear. Clear left. One up. One up. Shield on the stairs. First floor clear. All right, Johnny's got to be upstairs. Let's try to call him out.
Kurt Jones, come on out. Be smart. Give yourself up. There you are. Come on out, Kurt.
Let me see
come
your
on,
hands. Let me see your hands.
Both hands. Come on, Kurt. Come out slow. Turn around, Kurt.
He will be shot if he reaches for that gun.
Kurt, if you reach for that gun, you're going to be shot. Stand right there, buddy.
You got covered.
Kurt, come on, Kurt.
Get him down, get him down, hands down, hands behind your back.
There you go.
Stand fast. Suspect's in custody.
All right, scenarios out of roll, out of roll.
Boy, I'll tell you, I learned so much. Potential for a dangerous situation every single time. So much to remember, so much to do. Your guy's the best at it, so thank you so much for all the tips and the instruction.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we got to get busy and go out there and catch some real fugitives, so stay with us. Now, on our last special, we brought you 50 fugitives from 50 states. And now I want to update you on one of those cases. It's a story of justice for a family of a young man who was taken from us way too young. It was in May of this year. Jason Ford, a young man in Little Rock, Arkansas, had just met a local woman on Facebook.
Jason never let me know he was dating girls. He wouldn't bring them to the house. He didn't want to let me know because I would drill him. And that's just how he was.
Well, thanks for lunch.
My pleasure. Days later, Jason met up with the young woman, Marquishan, for lunch at a local restaurant.
So, can we do this again?
On Wednesday, May 18th, 2011, Jason was on his way to meet up with Marquishan for a second date. She said she'd bring a friend for Jason's buddy, Kilo Dawes. So Kilo tagged along.
Did you hear a friend in the background? She sounds sexy.
But Jason and Kilo had no idea. This was no double date. This was a double cross. Marquishan's boyfriend had put her up to this. His name, Christopher Smith.
Yeah, I see you. I'm at my girlfriend's house, so just come down to the bottom of the drive. Just keep coming. All right, I'll be down now.
Give me the money! Hey, man. Give me the money, man. Give me all that money. Where? Huh? Where? Where's the wallet at? Give me the money. I'm gonna hold up. Hey, Reggie, check your man. Come on, man. Give it. Come on.
Jason's friend Kilo got away. He survived, but Jason wasn't so lucky.
The doctor came in and said whatever he said, and that's when everybody stormed out. And he gave us the bad news and said that my son had passed and they did all that they could do.
Police picked up Marquishan.
All right, I'm ready to hear your statement.
Well, I could tell Jason was...
She explained it was all a setup. They knew Jason had money and Smith had promised her half of what he got. For her part in the conspiracy, Marquishan was charged with murder. But the man who planned the brutal murder, Christopher Smith, got away. That is, until we aired the case on our last special.
Once that aired, I started getting calls that night from potential witnesses that might have known where he was.
America's Most Wanted.
Your tips placed Smith in Los Angeles, and then the cops took it from there. They started working the streets, and before 2 weeks had gone by, they pinpointed an address. And just like that, Smith's days on the run were over. Nothing will bring her son back to her, but for Jason's mom, the arrest means she knows her son can rest in peace, and that for his sacrifice, the world is a little safer.
I was relieved because I know that they'll have another killer off the streets, and plus, I think that justice should be served for what he did to my son.
Amen. I hope that Jason rests in peace, and my prayers go out to his family. And make Christopher Smith rot in a jail cell for the rest of his life. Now, one more update. This is a case we've been following all year. The disappearance of a beautiful young girl in Indiana. Her parents have never given up hope, and neither have I.
Do I have a group of 3 or 4?
The frantic search unfolded after Lauren Spear, a 20-year-old sophomore at Indiana University, disappeared in the dark of night last June.
Just check as much of it as you can.
Definitely, though, like to start at the bypass.
Massive crowds of students and concerned citizens helped police scour the streets of Bloomington. Here's what we know. Police say Lauren left a Bloomington sports bar around 2:30 a.m. with a guy she knew from school. She briefly stopped at her own apartment and then went out once more, heading back to the young man's apartment building. Around 4:30 a.m., Lauren supposedly told friends at the building that she was calling it a night. She headed home, but no one saw her after that.
I texted her in the morning on Friday, and then I texted her again in the afternoon on Friday to say, is everything okay? And I didn't hear from her.
While police were expanding the search to the woods around Bloomington, Lauren's family traveled from New York to Indiana, trying to help out in any way possible.
Somebody knows where Lauren is. Somebody knows.
Good evening, America's Most Wanted.
Meanwhile, we featured Lauren's story on America's Most Wanted, and you flooded our hotline with tips, but none of the leads have panned out. Six months have passed, but there's still no sign of Lauren anywhere. More than ever, the Spear family needs your help to recover Lauren.
She's really an important part of our family, and we miss her desperately. I will never give up looking for Lauren. You know, that's just not an option. So every day we get up and we think, what are we going to do today? What can we do today to make a difference?
The Spears continue to work closely with the Bloomington Police Department. But as the cold weather creeps in, the searches have dwindled down.
I feel inadequate. I feel like I haven't done enough because we haven't found Lauren.
The Spears are at home right now thinking of Lauren, hoping that one credible tip finally comes in. They're praying that tip comes from you tonight, that you can help bring Lauren home.
We're getting a lot done.
Here's video of Lauren. That's her on the right. She stands just 4 feet 11 inches and has long blonde hair and blue eyes. Just as Lauren's mom said, somebody out there knows what happened to her beautiful daughter. So please, have the courage to call in that tip. Now, if you have any information regarding Lauren's disappearance, call 1-800-CRIME-TV. And remember, you can remain anonymous. When a child goes missing, it leaves a giant hole in your heart. There is nothing that can ever be put right until you can hold that child in your arms again. And you never, never give up praying for that blessed day. I hope you can bring that blessing to Lauren's parents. If we're here for any reason, it's that. Now, please stay with us as I'm headed up to the Marshall Central Headquarters in Washington, D.C. We'll announce the next member of the 15 Most Wanted when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm at the U.S. Marshals headquarters just outside D.C. with their first female director, Stacia Hilton. Director Hilton, it's so nice to see you again. I met you about a year ago. This is almost your anniversary. Quite a baptism under fire, hasn't it been?
It's been a difficult year. You know, we experienced great loss. We lost 2 deputies, as you know, within 19 days of each other. We actually, throughout the year, lost 5 sworn task force officers and 2 canine officers that were working with us. And so it's been tragic, you know, but we've responded well as an agency. You know, we've really reached out to the family because when that call comes, it's devastating. It's unbearable for them.
Baptism under fire for you, and this is the most deadly year for law enforcement in 50 years. But I'll never forget the day that I met you almost a year ago. you brought me downstairs. You said, John, would you mind meeting the families of these fallen officers? And you introduced me to moms and dads and wives and children, and I could see your caring and your compassion. The Marshals really are a family, aren't they?
We are. We're a small organization, and these really are our fallen heroes that have paid the ultimate sacrifice, and we owe it to them to take care of their families. And it meant so much to them, John, that you were with them.
July 27th, 2006 is a day I'll never forget. It was the 25th anniversary of the abduction of our 6-year-old son, Adam. A horrible day for us was turned into a positive day by President Bush signing the Adam Walsh Act. And the U.S. Marshals were a huge part, and still are, of that bill to create a national sex offender registry. And you just took that piece of federal legislation and ran with it.
Oh, really, we can be so grateful to the men and women inside the Marshal Service that really stood that program up. I mean, in the 5 years of getting that authority, we've run over 600 sex offender operations. And those 600 operations have resulted in getting 45,000 non-compliant sex offenders off the street. It's amazing. And you know that the work that we do down at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children really has resulted in a combined partnership of taking and finding 345 missing children. You know, John, that's 345 missing children that have been reunited with their loved ones. You can't beat that. I mean, there's nothing more gratifying.
It's an incredible record. It's incredible, and I've met several of those families. Those kids are back where they belong because of the U.S. Marshals. And those non-compliant guys who cut off their ankle bracelet and run anywhere around the world and move next door, and your child is their next target, you have really, really made a huge difference in tracking of sex offenders. You're the first female director in the history of the Marshals. But lots of people don't know about your background.
Well, it's true, John. I actually started when I was 19, trained to be a deputy U.S. Marshal, and you know, I fell in love with the agency immediately. And through almost my 30-year career, I've served across a spectrum of positions in there. You know, I'm particularly proud to have been a member of the Special Operations Group, you know, working judicial security, investigations, witness security. I've been an instructor down at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Academy, teaching firearms and physical fitness. So, you know, I had a wonderful career. I'm so proud to be back and be the director, leading the men and women that I hold in the highest regard and being a part of this great organization.
You really came up through the ranks, and I know that the guys out in the field, the men and women in the field, have great respect for you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm so proud to be working with them.
You, in partnership with us, are the agency, the U.S. Marshals, that have caught more fugitives off of America's Most Wanted than any local, state, federal, or international agency. You have your own 15 Most Wanted list. We've partnered to take 23 guys off of that list. We mentioned a new addition to it earlier in the show, but you have a second addition, and who is that?
It's Edward Salas, you know, wanted for murder. He escaped from a New Mexico prison in 2008.
I know about this guy. He was on my personal 10 Most Wanted list, and I've profiled him 5 times. And when you see what he's done, you'll know exactly why the Marshals have put him on their 15 Most Wanted list.
It's hard, and it isn't something I won't ever forget. It's like a dream waiting to wake up.
Patricia Perez will never forget the love she has for her kid brother, Carlos. But sadly, she'll also never forget the moment he was ripped from her life. It happened 6 years ago on September 15th, 2005. Carlos went to bed, excited about a very big day.
It would have been his birthday. He would have turned 11 years old that next day, and had a lot of plans like every 10-year-old across America.
The night before he went to bed, he was deciding on what to wear for his birthday. He had chosen a black buttoned-up shirt with some black jeans.
They actually walked up to the apartment window and stood within a matter of inches and fired 9 bullets through the apartment complex window and then fled on foot. Carlos and his older brother shared that bedroom. 8 of those bullets struck furniture, walls within the bedroom, and 1 of them struck Carlos in the head.
I was hoping I would call his name and he would talk to me, but it was nothing.
Police quickly had Edward Salas and nearly all of his accomplices in custody. Carlos's family believed justice had been served. Salas was serving life plus 56 years in a Clovis, New Mexico jail. The facility is under constant surveillance, but on August 23, 2008, Salas found the one place in the jail he and 7 other violent criminals made their break.
Took tools that we don't know if they were brought in or if they were already in there, and they made some handmade tools.
They shimmied their way up a wall. They climbed up onto the 2nd floor, which is more or less air conditioning ducts.
But get on top of the roof and then to the outside.
Then the men climbed down a nearby tree and made a run for it. We helped authorities launch a nationwide manhunt. And the good news, to date, all of the fugitives have been caught. Salas.
He was sentenced to life plus 56 years in prison. Now that he has escaped, it has reopened the wound to the Pettis family. And we assured them yesterday that with the help of law enforcement, with the help of America, we will find Edward.
This is a pain that will never heal. Something that'll never go away. It's a pain that's just there.
We can never bring Carlos back to his family, but tonight we can find them some justice. Edward Salas could be hiding in New Mexico, Texas, or across the border. If you have any idea where Edward Salas might be tonight, call our hotline right now at 1-800-CRIME-TV. Well, you can see how really badly this family needs justice, and I really think that our viewers are going to help you find this guy. I mean, now that you're on the hunt, the world's going to be a very much smaller place for Salas. I'm curious, though, of all the guys that we've taken off the 15 most wanted, which was the fastest capture?
You know, we've had some great successes, but I think the fastest was actually when we got an AMW tip off a promo. And we went out and picked up Paul Merritt. You remember he was wanted for a brutal murder on his family on a Thanksgiving dinner? We apprehended him before the show closed.
It was fantastic capture because that guy murdered a 6-year-old girl, was the same age as Adam. I'm from South Florida. I know that case, and you made a huge difference. That was a great, great capture. Now, we've got some more business to do tonight. Do you want to help us out here?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone, we're looking for your assistance. We've got 3 more U.S. Marshals, 15 most wanted. Please take a look.
John Ruffo is not your run-of-the-mill con man. He managed to defraud 10 banks out of $350 million. Ruffo pleaded guilty, then he ran. This guy's slick. He wears expensive suits and may pretend to have links to law enforcement. But don't be fooled. He's nothing but a high-rolling punk. This next fugitive on the Marshals list really did have links to law enforcement. Dan Hires used to be a cop, but his young wife never knew his dirty secret. He was an accused child molester. But cops say she found out, and when she tried to leave him, he killed her. He's been on the run ever since.
This is Dan Hires Jr.
Here's a good clue. We have video of him talking. Listen to his accent.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody that's made this wedding possible.
Hires is blonde with blue eyes. Look for him in 2 of his favorite places, a karate studio or a strip joint. And I know the Marshals would love to bring in Larry Chisholm, a law student by day and a drug kingpin by night. Chisholm broke out of prison twice. The first breakout led to a crime spree of kidnapping and hijacking. He hasn't been cited since 1990. Here's an age-enhanced sketch of what he might look like today. If you see Larry Chisholm or any of the U.S. Marshals Most Wanted fugitives, call us at 1-800-CRIME-TV or leave an anonymous tip at amw.com. Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, Wild Bill Hickok, all legends in American history, all U.S. Marshals. all pretty well known, but here's something I bet you didn't know. The famous outlaw, Billy the Kid, was actually deputized as a marshal once. He lasted all of 4 days. You know, when you start looking through the 222-year history of the Marshals, you'll find a lot of surprises. The United States Marshal Service. Not only are they one of America's most feared and respected law enforcement agencies,
We found you.
they're the oldest. In the Old West, the Marshals were sometimes all that stood between the settlers and the outlaws. Nowadays, criminals still fear the prospect of the lawman's knock at their front door. But what exactly is a U.S. Marshal? To answer that, we spoke with Dave Turk, official historian of the United States Marshal Service.
A U.S. Marshal is a role that's defined over time, started with very wide, vague powers. Our founding act is the Judiciary Act of September 24th, 1789. We were in charge of federal executions, serving writs. We still protect the courts as we did from the very beginning, which has always been one of our primary roles. But we now have the Witness Protection Program. We still have JPATS now, what's called Con Air, as redefined transportation of prisoners. Fugitive apprehension, while it was not a huge focus in the beginning, was much more major a focus as modern times have come in. Primarily what you see on TV is not always us. Sometimes it's that and more.
Before the Secret Service came along, the Marshals even protected this country's highest office.
The Marshals were probably one of the more closer entities to the President of the United States.
One such Marshal, Ward Hill Lamont, was always at the side of Abraham Lincoln. Or almost always.
In December of 1864, Lincoln was in the company of an ambassador from Italy to go to Ford's Theater to see a production. Lamont wrote Lincoln a very harsh letter, and I'm surprised that he would write his superior of this, but in no uncertain terms, do not go to Ford's Theater with just the ambassador as your company.
Don't know the manners of good society, eh?
He was sent to Richmond 3 days before Lincoln's assassination in Ford's Theater, which is why he wasn't there. He never forgave himself for that.
As America expanded out west, the Marshals continued to rein in outlaws on the new frontier. But they couldn't do it alone.
In the old days, when we used the posses, of course, we deputized the citizens. Nowadays, we special deputize local law enforcement, but the Marshal Service, just as it did in the old days, relies so heavily on our partnership with state and local law enforcement in order to complete our mission every single day.
In the 60s, the Marshals found themselves on the front lines of some of the most divisive moments in those turbulent days. They were charged with protecting James Meredith when he integrated the University of Mississippi in 1962 and quietly stood by the side of other civil rights leaders as well.
We were in places people didn't even think we would be. King's March on Washington, we were actually securing the lines, even though you really didn't see us there.
In 1971, the Marshals created the Special Operations Group, SOG, commonly known as SOG. Highly trained elite fighting force.
Your Honor, keep your hands up. Put your hands on top of your head. Do it now.
Special Operations Group is constantly deployed in one mission or another within the Marshal Service, including overseas missions.
SOG is made up of the toughest and brightest men and women that the U.S. Marshal Service has to offer.
Open the door. We're going to kick it in.
As SOG evolved over time, so did the Marshals' mission.
I'm in your face now.
The memorandum of understanding that was put together between the Marshal Service and the FBI that gave fugitive apprehension powers back to the U.S. Marshals.
Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
The 15 Most Wanted was formed in 1983.
5 years later, America's Most Wanted hit the airwaves, and our storied partnership with the Marshals began. It didn't take long for the word to spread that the Marshals were everywhere. Case in point, Larry White, AMW Direct Result Capture, number 329.
He firmly believed there was a U.S. Marshal between every rock, tree, and bush out in this field.
Down, down, everybody down!
In May 2002, shortly after 9/11, the New York, New Jersey Regional Fugitive Task Force came to life. The next step in the partnership between the U.S. Marshals and local law enforcement.
We train together, we work together, we provide them with a special deputation authority, or the authority of a Deputy United States Marshal.
In the years that followed, these modern-day posses popped up throughout the country. These task forces have taken down hundreds of my most wanted fugitives.
Did you kill Dougal Mills?
Every time the Marshal Service takes a bad guy off the streets,
All marriage is arrested.
it makes the world that much safer for the rest of us.
Yeah, if it's him, let's go ahead and take him. What I'm being camera for?
When you arrest a felon and a fugitive, knowing that you're protecting others, I don't think there's anything more gratifying. You know, it's our basic DNA. It's who we are.
Terrific. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Now, let me tell you one more thing about the U.S. Marshals. All that great work they do all over the world, well, they do it with just 5,600 employees, just 4,500 deputy marshals. Really amazing. Now, stay with us. We're coming right back. The homestead. For generations, this American landmark has been the perfect setting for a weekend getaway.
All right, that was 1 apple pie, a blueberry tart, and 2 coffees, right?
But to the resort's employees, the homestead is much more than a vacation destination. It's their livelihood and their family.
It's about time. Beecher, make yourself useful.
Beecher Hackney, a janitor, had been at the homestead since 2003. If the resort was a family, Hackney was the relative who didn't quite fit in. 26 years before arriving at the homestead and 100 miles away in West Virginia, Hackney married Dolores Robbins. After losing Dolores, Hackney bounced from job to job before landing at the homestead.
You know, we really don't get many people volunteering for the graveyard shift.
I like my peace and quiet.
Yeah, well, you'll get plenty of that. Not many people to bother you. Here's my son, Michael. He works at the front gate. And this is my other son, Dwight. Not by blood, of course.
So you're the new guy?
You know, I was just telling Beecher about how quiet it gets here at the homestead at night.
Oh, you'll be fine. Nothing bad ever happens around here. Welcome to the family.
For years, Hackney worked the night shift, preferring the lonely halls and empty kitchen. When he did interact with the rest of the staff, each encounter seemed stranger than the last.
He was here when I got here, and so he was just like this weird person nobody would really associate with because he wouldn't talk to anybody.
You okay, Beecher?
Sometimes he'd clang chairs around.
Push him away and beat them together or
knock them over.
Yeah, that's what he used to do.
Dad was extremely frustrated with him and gave him a lot of chances. Finally, Dad just had to move him to the 3 to 11 shift, and that's where he started working.
Excuse me, Beecher. I said, excuse me.
After work, Hackney retreated into his tiny, barren apartment. His only company, the anger cops believe was eating away at him.
Use your head, man. You might want to put your jacket on. That was 1 apple pie, a blueberry tart, and 2 coffees, right?
We had extra people come in the dining room that was not even supposed to be in here. We were really, really packed.
Everybody was everywhere that night trying to get stuff done. We were like bees.
About time. Beecher, make yourself useful.
The dish machine every once in a while makes this god-awful banging that sounds like a gun.
They can bang?
Why are you doing this?
The scene was chaos. He was just making his round. People went everywhere, hiding behind the line. They didn't know where to go. They didn't know whether or not that he was going to shoot them too.
What's going on in here? We got a crowd out here.
Ronnie is barreling ass running at me. And he said,
What's the matter with this son of a bitch? Run for your life!
no remorse, no regret, just this cold, blank, emotionless mass.
At that point, Beecher come walking out of the docking bay over here.
This video shows exactly what Michael saw. Panic, fear, people running for their lives, and then Hackney calmly leaving the scene.
I was just wanting to get to the kitchen to see if I could help anybody up there. I was just afraid because I hadn't seen Dad.
No, no, no! Dad! No, you don't need to see this, man. Dad! Look, just stay where you are, Michael. Just stay.
As both Ronnie and Dwight lay dead on the kitchen floor, Hackney walked out of the homestead and into the night. The loss of Ronnie and Dwight haunts all of their family members, those at home and those at the homestead.
It still kind of feels like Dad's at work, so being here is sort of, you know, I'm kind of expecting to see him running through the kitchen.
Those were friends of ours, and it's just still hard a little bit sometimes to deal with.
It's like that light kind of burned out.
So tonight, let's shine our white-hot spotlight on Hackney and get these families some justice. Here's how you can help spot him. Hackney's missing the tip of his right pinky finger and several of his lower teeth. He usually pays for everything with cash or money orders. Cops think he could be somewhere near Phoenix, Arizona. But wherever he is, you'll know him by his weird antisocial behavior. If you've seen Beecher Hackney, please call our hotline right now, 1-800-CRIME-TV. We've been talking tonight about how the U.S. Marshals work together with local law enforcement. The next case of a Marshal's 15 most wanted fugitive is a great case in point. We rode along with a New York detective who's become obsessed with finding this fugitive. And if you can help take this guy off the list tonight, it'll really prove the power of the partnership between the U.S. Now, before we go, I wanted to share something with you that's been bothering me for a very long time. Holidays are coming, money's tight, we are in an economic crisis. Most of the world is suffering right along with us. But the way to solve this, the way that local, state, federal legislators are trying to do it, is by hurting the little people and letting go the people that we need the most. Paramedics, school teachers, college teachers, firefighters. I think that's the wrong way to go about it. For example, Cleveland, Ohio, great town. They are very proud that they shrank government by letting 321 people go. They closed out those jobs. Now, more than a third of those people were cops. Paterson, New Jersey, nice little place, laid off 125 police officers. So did it make that town more economically viable? Did it make it a better place to live? No. 15% spike in crime. Flint, Michigan, I've been there, lovely town. It laid off 2/3 of its police force. Did that make it a safer place? Did it make it better quality of life to live in that city? No. It's become one of the small city murder capitals of the U.S. And you know what? Who's going to pay for the economic meltdown, the huge debt? How about companies? Companies have made more money than in the whole history of the world, and they've done it with less people. Some of the Fortune 500 companies pay no state taxes at all. We all know about GE not paying federal taxes. But the way to solve this is not to let go the people that we need the most. If your house is burning down and you call the fire department and there's 4 fires ahead of you and they can't get to you and save your biggest investment because you're 4th on the list, you're not going to get somebody from Wall Street or from a Fortune 500 company to put your fire out. Poverty is one of the ways that we increase crime. The crime spike in this country is because of poverty. So why would we ever let the teachers go? There's not going to be less NBA players this year. There's not going to be less NFL players, and big movie stars aren't taking a big salary cut. But how about the Fortune 500 people going into the schools and teaching classes? I doubt it. You can't lay off teachers. And what if your child's missing? What if somebody's in burglarizing your house? And you're in one of those cities that have cut 2/3 of their police force, and they say the 5 cops that are left are on something else. And who's going to come and save you then? Citigroup? Wells Fargo, big banking company? No, it's because the cops are being cut. It's a quick fix, but it's not a good fix. Got to make the corporations pay more money. We can't let these people go. You got to speak up. You got to call your legislator. You got to write them. You got to email them. We need every cop that was on the streets before. We need more teachers than ever. They're the lowest paid on the totem pole, and paramedics save lives every day. We got to speak up. Now, here's a quick review of tonight's cases. All of these fugitives are on the U.S. Marshals 15 Most Wanted list, and all of them are considered very dangerous. Marshals in Detroit say Corey Gaston kidnapped a 10-year-old girl from her bedroom and brutally raped her. Police say Edward Salas fired a gun into the window of an apartment in New Mexico, killing a young boy. Andre Neverson is accused of killing his own sister, then killing a woman who had jilted him. John Ruffo is charged with defrauding more than 10 banks out of $350 million. Dan Hires is an ex-cop accused of molesting a child and killing his own wife. This is an age-enhanced drawing of Larry Chisholm. He's a drug kingpin who broke out of prison twice. Chisholm hasn't been spotted in more than 20 years. To see the rest of the fugitives on the Marshals 15 Most Wanted and all the fugitives from tonight's show, go to our website, amw.com. And before we go, we want to offer a very special thanks to the U.S. Marshals for all their help in putting together tonight's broadcast and all they do to keep us safe. I'm John Walsh. Thanks a lot for watching tonight. I'm really glad you spent this time with us, because the mission of America's Most Wanted is an ongoing battle, and one that you are an essential part of. Now, we'll be back on Fox on February 11th. In the meantime, go visit us at our website, amw.com. I'm wishing you all the very happiest of holidays. Hug and love your family. Stay safe, stay strong, and remember, you do make a difference.